Let's move on to the NECC because we've got a really interesting combination going on at Garrett. We're talking Eastside battling Garrett. Right now, these are the front runners in the small schools division in the NECC and the front runner in the big school division for the NECC. So what do you see being the big key at Memorial Field on Friday night?
Seems like we talk about Eastside every week, right? Because their first 5 games of the schedule has just been brutal. But, key for both of those teams is really establishing up front. I think Garrett would really like to keep this game, rushing game, grind it out. Eastside can go vertical. Connor Dove, he can scramble. He can get yards for you. I think Garrett wants a more traditional, let's just pound the ball and move the chains. And I think it'll be interesting for Eastside because they had that slow start record-wise, even though their schedule's big time tough. So getting a win at Garrett would be tremendous for Eastside because, Coach Eschbach still considers this one of the better teams in the northern part of the state in the class. So it would be huge for them to go on the road and get a win. But, Garrett, they get challenged at Busco, and then they really let loose last week against Lakeland. So it could be a tough game for Eastside.
Yeah, if you're score comparing, you're talking about 2 weeks ago, Garrett goes to Busco and barely beats Busco 7-6. I know I talked to Coach DePue afterwards. He wasn't happy necessarily with the way that they played in that game, but happy with getting a victory, especially on the road against a tough opponent. And then Eastside comes back last week, 28-6 against Busco. So score compare, Eastside fared better against a common opponent in the last 2 weeks. How much do you put into that, or do you even worry about something like that? Because, Garrett comes in with a running back. They can grind out the football with Cam Smith. He's got almost 500 yards. They can throw it with Tanner Burns. He can run it. They got Ben Purdy catching football.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so much firepower. You just look at that 7-point effort against Busco and say, it was just one bad night.
Well, I mean, only Coach DePue really knows the answer to this question. And you would say, my opinion was like maybe Garrett was buying into their hype a little bit too much because I think the first third of the season we heard, man, Garrett, even in preseason, Garrett, oh man, they got so many guys returning. You mentioned several of them, and this could be the best team in a decade. The first challenging game they have of the year at Busco, maybe punched in the mouth a little bit and kind of knocked him down. And I'm sure Coach DePue is perfectly fine with that, especially since they got the win and they can learn a lesson. So maybe a lesson was learned there. Hey, man, not everything is going to be handed to us, especially in the NECC this year. So maybe that was a bit of a wake-up call for them. Or, maybe we're looking a little bit too much into it, but it should be interesting just to see if Eastside can hang and if Eastside can compete to get a win over Garrett.
We talked about all those talented skill position players for Garrett. I mean, Eastside can match them.
Yeah.
Really, at those positions, you got Connor Dove, one of the better two-way quarterbacks, I think, in the NECC, definitely. And then
Say his name.
Connor Dove.
The other one, you're getting to him.
Kizan Gerard.
There you go.
At running back, Kizan, not Kizan. Kizan, I believe.
It's even fun typing one of the newspapers.
It is. And you got, big guy Jacob Thompson there at tight end. You got Aaron Dean, PJ's little brother, running behind the defense. I mean, they have guys that can make plays for them offensively, just like Garrett.
Yeah, definitely. And I've said it before. I saw them over the summer. They were scrimmaging against Dwenger, Homestead, Lures over at St. Francis. And they have big bodies they were competing, and they have athletes competing. So, Coach Mike Eschbach still considers this team one of his best of his time at Eastside. And they have the capability. This would be a big win for them springboarding into the second half of the season if they can go to Garrett and get a victory.